My name is Tony Coelho, and I'm chairman of the board of AAPD. Well, getting the ADA passed was somewhat surprising because when I first introduced it, I had members of Congress come up to me who said, my mother, my father, my son, my daughter, my wife, my husband, my next door neighbor has a disability and I don't like the way they've been treated, so I want to go on your bill. Now, they hadn't read it, or they just had read my letter saying I'd put in a bill, and so they wanted to go on as co-sponsors. And it was liberals and conservatives, Democrats, Republicans, men and women, and so forth. It was interesting to see the cross-section of members of Congress who wanted to go on my bill. It was exciting, really, and we got a great number of people to go on the bill. Writing the ADA was important to me because I have a disability, and I know what it's like to go through rejection. My family rejected my disability, my church rejected my disability, and I lost my license and insurance and so forth, all because of my disability. I couldn't get a job. I was suicidal because of the rejection I'd gone through. And when I got elected to Congress, I decided I was going to do something about disabilities and the way people were mistreated. And I offered amendments and realized that this was all piecemeal. And I realized that the issue was really our basic civil rights. And the ADA is a reflection of what I went through and what thousands and millions of other Americans went through. And so I offered it as a reflection of what not only myself but millions of other people had gone through in their lives. The 20th anniversary of the ADA means a lot in that, it's now the law of the land in 52 different countries. There's similar provisions of the ADA. It has impacted people all across the board. Crosswalks, the devices on phones. You just name all kinds of different things that we now take for granted that are accommodations that impact not only those of us with disabilities but everybody else. And so the 20th anniversary is that America has changed, the world has changed, all because of the passage of the ADA 20 years ago. ADA has affected my life because people can't ask me about my illness when I'm seeking a job or anything else. It's exciting that we can be treated just like anybody else. A personal story, though, is that I was at Disney World just recently, and I was walking down one of the paths, and a man in a wheelchair was getting ready to go on a ramp. And his 12-year-old boy said, "Dad, are you sure that ramp will take care of you?" And he said, "Yes, son, it has to, because the ADA requires it." That made me extremely proud. The ADA has changed all kinds of things. All you have to do is go out into any street corner in any city, and you'll see curb cuts everywhere. And it's not used just by people in wheelchairs. It's used by men and women taking their babies in a stroller. It's used by delivery men and women taking goods to small businesses. It's used by people on bicycles delivering goods to businesses or whoever. It's used by the elderly to get off and on sidewalks. And yes, it's used by kids in their rollerblades and roller skates and so forth, and by a few people with disabilities. You can see it happen in regards to, you go to an airport and people use the telephones with accommodations for the hearing, so they can, the volume controls. You can go practically anywhere nowadays, and there is some accommodation for people with a disability that is used by the general population. And that's what it's all about, is making everything accessible, not only to those of us with a disability, but it's accommodation for all Americans. It's exciting to see what has really happened to to this country. The thing that's the most important on ADA going forward is that the enforcement of the law. And we see that happening today with the administration. Practically every day you see some enforcement taking place with the Department of Justice forcing a city or a county or a state or a business to require them to comply with the law. Federal contractors now are going to have to comply with the law in the hiring of people with disabilities, which takes me to the real issue, and that is getting people to hire people with disabilities, to not discriminate against those of us who have ability to do work, as opposed to people paying attention to our so-called disability and refusing to hire us. It's illegal to do so, but getting people to change their mind about how to provide us with the opportunity to work, with the opportunity, I always say, to be fired. Because if we can't do the job, we shouldn't be doing the work. But we can't be actually working if we don't have an opportunity to work. And we need to find work. The unemployment rate for people with disabilities is higher than any other group. And so consequently, we need to have that change. Getting federal contractors, forcing them to comply with the law would take care of that problem. So we look forward to the administration making that happen.